Hello, everyone. Something was brought to my attention which hit home fairly well with me. A live journal post by the account Symphonic Rock Productions was posted in the very early hours of November 24th, 2017. I won't name any specific names as to who this person is, as it's not my business to do so. However, it was the content of the post that matters. It expresses quite well what I have personally felt for many years now, and I felt that a vocal reading of the post would perhaps help its content come across more effectively. The journal is titled, My Official I'm Leaving the Furry Fandom Notice, and it expresses the same kind of concerns and issues I've also had with the fandom over the last 15 years of my involvement with it. As it currently stands, I've been considering whether or not to remain involved with the fandom myself, due to the same issues and concerns expressed in this journal. It certainly helped in influencing my own considerations. But let's just get started and get on reading. There are certain things one expects of a fandom community. Most importantly is a space where one can share their interest in the object of the fandom with people who will not think it silly or stupid because they're into it too. It's supposed to be a space where something abnormal, like adults being obsessed by something that's considered just for kids, is rendered normal. And it's also expected to be a place where everyone feels friendly towards each other, because it's automatically assumed that everyone there has something in common. Of course, it's also assumed that each individual will have various unrelated distinctions, such as politics, religion, race, whatever. These are all expected to be set aside in a fandom community, because a fandom community provides its own ethnicity, and your real-world ethnicity or politics becomes but an adjective to your fandom identity. Thus, everyone should be able to enjoy the comfort and security of being one huge family, and just have a great time that will never end, if all goes well. Some fandoms have been successful at pulling off this atmosphere. Unfortunately, the furry fandom has failed pretty much from day one, while propagating the lie that it is the most successful fandom when it comes to such achievements. Another, even more crucial expectation of fandom community for adults who want to be into something childish is a protective environment for the inner child. A certain amount of innocence must be maintained in order to go on appreciating a child's art form in adult years. One must maintain the capability to be happy with less, to see value in something that isn't designed to meet the usual needs of one's age group. If the fandom community forces the individual to spend all of his time focusing on adult subject matter, be it sexual or political, this causes a maturing of the center of the brain that needs to remain in a state of youthful purity for the interest in the object of the fandom to be maintained, and the inevitable result will be a total loss of interest in what one came into the community to share and celebrate. By myself, for 3 decades before encountering the furry community, I had no difficulty maintaining interest in anthropomorphic animals or the simplistic life values they tended to exemplify. But upon taking up residence in the furry community, I was forcibly compelled into a world of hateful politics and general discontentment. You could have fun in the furry community, but only while trying to ignore the awareness of a dark cloud always hanging over your head. Yes, when you came into the furry community, your normal, real-world distinctions would disappear behind your furry avatar. But then furries would stick badges on you that denoted your fandom politics. Were you burned fur or anti-burned fur? And whether you ran into Ash M. Cairo, pro, or Zydex, anti, either would make it clear you needed to be indoctrinated to one side or the other. And if you chose the side opposite to theirs, they would troll you without mercy for the purpose of ruining your reputation in the fandom. That's a thing in the furry community. Even if you've just arrived and nobody knows who you are, you have this social reputation to worry about. And if someone like Zydex wants to make sure you never enjoy any kind of success in the community, he will make you famous. He will make sure everyone in the community hears about you, just so he can try to get them to hate you. But even if you give in to Zydex's bullying and join his side, the other side is going to do the same thing. Thus, the furry community has always been a place where one is almost guaranteed to attract hate. And the more furries hate on each other inside the community, the more it catches the notice of the mainstream media, who state what they see. A community that is obsessed with its own perversity and venomously hateful towards its own. Any talk of unity in the furry community is a stone-cold lie. That has never existed here. There's a very good reason why they say furries love drama. It's because the drama never ends here. Somebody's always hating on somebody else and being rewarded with clicks for it. And please don't say burned fur was a long time ago and everything's been peachy since then. Burned fur never went away. It just evolved through a series of name changes, the sequence of which went as follows: Burned Fur, Crush Yif Destroy, Vivisector, Kiwi Farms, Antifa Furs. Same nasty people, same nasty attitude, indoctrinating young people year after year to the idea that furry fandom is a loathsome thing that must be protested, trolled, and doxxed, and thus ensuring that the furry community will continue to be a toxic domain of self-loathing that attempts to eat itself alive, while destroying anyone who dares to try to make things better. I would also like to say a word about furs like Foxer and Crusader Cat. They are typical of people who come into the community because they've heard about how tolerant and supportive of uniqueness and oddities it is. It's supposedly a place where you don't have to be afraid to be yourself, even if yourself is more than a little odd. Indeed, most people in the furry community are more than a little odd. In a tolerant and accepting fandom, one is given license to act childish and silly without expecting to be reprimanded for acting childish and silly. One would also expect a little forgiveness if they choose to be honest and admit that they did some things as a teenager they aren't proud of and don't do anymore. They certainly don't expect people in their fandom family to assume they're the same in adulthood as they were as teens, and thus judge them by teenage behavior for life. But that is exactly what the furry community does. Basically, they set you up. Go on, act crazy, indulge yourself, share your darkest bedroom fantasies, draw porn of them, make groups to support and promote your fetishes. Nothing you do will shock us or draw hate to you. Be free, be happy, never give a thought to anything you do having consequences here. So the Foxlers and the Crusader Cats come in and do just that. They totally open up. They say really far out things that they don't expect to be taken seriously in a fandom for funny animals. But not only does the community take them literally, it puts them through the rumor mill, generates tons of hate towards them, and before they're through, anything that has ever gone wrong in the world, it's their fault. And no matter how ridiculous the accusation, all the denials in the world will not stop furs from believing whatever crap they find convenient to believe, and hating people according to it. So this is the sad truth of the furry fandom. It's not tolerant and accepting of anything. It is a drama mill that seeks constantly for furs to project hate at, because it's comprised mainly of overgrown, spoiled brats who are judgmental as hell and are never happy unless they're showering their derision on somebody. The furry community simply would not know what to do with itself if there were no Foxers or Crusader Cats to victimize. It would also not know what to do with itself if there were no fools like me who get caught up in defending the people the community is victimizing. It forces me to lock my mind into mature mode in order to judge what is fair and present a case for fair treatment. Unfortunately, the court of the furry community is not based on fairness or logic. It's based on emotion and postmodern insanity. So I'm totally wasting my time, and doing considerable damage to my own ability to suspend my maturity in the process. Do I need to explain how such a hateful environment would be poisonous to any childhood innocence one was trying to maintain? Do I need to explain how the constant inundation with furry porn would erode one's ability to continue relating to the innocence and simplicity of cartoons? To my credit, it's taken over 15 years of exposure to the adult nature of the furry fandom for me to have to realize and admit that it's gone. It's just all gone. I can't watch cartoons anymore. I have no innocence left in me to lend value to such things. My mind is completely consumed with politics, which I never cared about before. So what do you do when everything that you were before you came into the community has been destroyed? You no longer have a legitimate reason to be here, but you've made friends, and there are still political disputes going on that you've become really good at participating in. It was never your ambition to be good at such things, but the community has forced the talent on you. So for the sake of your friends, you keep talking for a while. Maybe you're still talking almost a year after you first realize you should have been out of here already. And finally, you start to crack. You realize your Twitter arguments are not getting to the real root of the problem, and thus you're wasting days and nights on end offering reason to a community that outright rejects reason. And then you see an article from Newsweek that puts into perspective how stupid the whole business is. But the whole battle is predicated on the lie that there was ever anything so good here that it was worth fighting to preserve. I'm sorry. I can't do this anymore. This fandom was always communist to its core. It was always about keeping everyone equal by destroying their self-esteem, keeping them down in the dirt at the bottom of the geek ladder, making them happy with porn and putting down all other forms of creativity that might be elevating. For a while there, I bought into and even helped promote the idea that the furry community was providing some valuable demonstration of a new type of society that might indicate the possibility of a brighter future. But I see now that what the furry community offers is nothing more than straight up communism. And communism doesn't work here any better than it has ever worked anywhere else. If you start to achieve any kind of success in the furry community, they call you a poppy fur and try to shoot you down. If you have opinions right of Stalin, they call you a Nazi. That's the new thing now. Just substitute Nazi for burn fur and SJWs for anti-burn fur, and you can see how the same perpetual battle continues to oppress and demean the furry fandom. Well, I'm sorry to have to admit that nothing I could possibly do is going to change this. Alt-furry and furry raiders are not going to make a dent in it either. You can't fight politics with politics, when the fact is the problem boils down to the reality the fandoms are not supposed to be political. Politics is toxic of its own nature, and the ground on which the furry community sits is saturated with that toxicity. It is well and truly ruined. And now that all this BS has finally made an adult of me at the age of 55, it's time for me to doff my hat and leave you all to your pointless infighting while I go off and look for something more appropriate to my age to get into. On Twitter recently, I was told by somebody on staff at one of the conventions that nobody in the furry fandom cares about me or wants anything I have to offer. And that makes a lovely bookend, because that's pretty much what I was told when I came in here 15-odd years ago. But I had to give it a shot at proving them wrong. I had to know if there was really an audience for what I do. But apparently there isn't. At least not around here. I am good for nothing in the furry community but being a reasonably good player in the political BS game. And while it was fun being somewhat popular for something for a while, it doesn't fulfill me as a furry. And I can't justify the waste of time and energy anymore. I have enough BS to deal with in real life. If you all want to stay here and fight these pointless battles so the outside world can go on laughing at the funny animals, I can't stop you. But I assure you it's all quite pointless. If you don't like what the furry community calls you, all you have to do is leave it, and it won't matter what they think of you. You don't have to break up your Discord groups or anything, just change the names. Drop the furry. Leave the furry community to the degenerate political-minded communists who built the damn thing. Then just go be yourselves in your own totally separate sphere of fandom, whatever you choose to be fans of, and keep politics the hell out of it. If you want to continue with anthropomorphic animals, call it funny animals. Maybe you want to expand to the whole of anthropomorphics. Maybe you want to be more specific and create a cartoon fandom. There's a ton of things out there that haven't been tried. Most of them because the furry community suppresses them. Build something new on pure virgin land. And for God's sakes, don't forget the lessons of furry failure. Keep whatever you build respectably clean and free of politics. And don't be allowing anybody who wants to just walk in and redefine what you build as something it isn't. That's the only road to potential happiness I see from here for those who need a fandom community that is healthy and safe.